Hello, and welcome to this episode of the K&Co Tech Pod. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co. And today I'm joined by Kelly Goetsch, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for commercetools. And we are going to talk today about some insights gained from a couple of research studies that the team at commercetools has recently done, focused on the state of e-commerce, exploring the replatforming and migration trends for 2024, and also then honing in on some investments that are driving holiday sales. Egads, the holiday season, it's here. Oh my gosh, Kelly, I'm not ready. But welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you and I had some time to spend together a few months ago in Miami at the commercetools Elevate event, and it's great to see you again. I know that your role at commercetools has evolved over the course of the past handful of years. You spent about 5 years as the company's chief product officer. In 2022, you took on the role of chief strategy officer. I'd love for you to share a little bit with us, if you would, about kind of your career backstory. What's that journey been like for you?
Sure. So I was coming of age just as the internet really started to become a thing. And in high school, I built websites for local businesses. Fantastic way to get going in the industry. And I hope nobody from Adobe is listening, but I had my hacks copy of Dreamweaver. I was pretty tight with that back then. And then worked for Foot Locker, doing front-end work there. Was recruited by ATG, which is now Oracle Commerce, and deployed a lot of those properties to production. A lot of the first big mall retailers, like DSW Shoes, for example, those types of organizations. And then Walmart for quite a while as their chief ATG architect. And then Oracle as a product manager. I also wrote eCommerce in the cloud there and for O'Reilly. And then I joined commercetools about a little over 8 years ago now as a first chief product officer.
So you have just a tiny bit of experience in that whole e-commerce business. Tiny bit. So, well, as I mentioned, you and the team at commercetools, you've published a couple of reports. We're going to dive into those in a minute. But before we go there, I'd love for you to share with me your thoughts on the state of the e-commerce industry. What are some of the key trends that you're seeing right now?
We're seeing rising consumer sentiment. I think now that rates have come down a little bit, I think folks are looking a little more positively at the economy. So that's quite positive. I think people are feeling a little bit more optimistic. And I think after the election, especially, that's a big, open item. And I think folks are going to feel a lot more confident, either direction once it's just decided.
Yeah.
So I think people are feeling positive generally about their finances and about the outlook.
That's good.
Also see a lot of social media now. TikTok shops is being very widely used, and that's great to see.
Yeah.
We see a lot of folks buying exclusively on mobile devices these days. So the percent of mobile has increased pretty dramatically. Again, interest rates have led to a lot of retailers investing more. And we'll talk about this more in the report, but it's obviously that retailers and brands need to be investing more, and we are starting to see that a little bit more, which is great, and that results in better customer experience. And generally, I'm a big believer that to differentiate in retail, you have to compete on price. And unless you're Amazon or Walmart, you're probably not going to compete on price. Product assortment, so that's having unique differentiated products, and that's a real opportunity. Customer experience. Right. And being part of the brand, behind the scenes tours, those are all great opportunities to interact and differentiate. And then logistics. And again, unless you're Amazon or Walmart, you're probably not going to win on that. So it really comes down to product assortment, and it comes down to experience. And that's why we at commercetools invented Headless Commerce. And we really allow our customers to build those differentiated experiences.
It's funny, so much of what you talk about, and I know that we talked about this a lot at Elevate, but, I am uniquely positioned. I'm the chief consumer in my family, and all of these things. I shop on mobile devices. I shop on social sites. I have very firm opinions on what kind of customer experiences I'm interested in. And you could have the most amazing product on the planet and the best assortment of offerings, But if I have a negative customer experience, and it could be as simple as a clunky checkout experience, or it could be a problem. I just had a problem with an order, and the brand made me jump through so many hoops, and it was their mistake. And it's like, I'm never buying from you again. So that customer experience part of the equation cannot be overstated. And I think that consumers are savvy, and and they can certainly be a pain in the neck. But when you're asking me to hand over my money for something that you're selling, I want to have a great experience. From everything, the web experience to the payment experience to the shipping experience and all of that sort of thing. So I think that it's really a critical part of my daily life to have people like you making those things possible. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course.
So,
and it's something interesting. Sorry, just to keep going for 1 second. What's fascinating is when I was just getting started in this industry in the early 2000s, it was very common to have a quarterly release to production. That was it. And we have customers now who are releasing to production once every minute. So the cycle of innovation has increased pretty substantially, and that's always great to see.
Quarterly to minute to minute. That's kind of mind-blowing and not surprising, really. So I want to talk now about something that is front and center in your reports, but replatforming and the move to more flexible, scalable platforms. Why is this such a key area of focus for businesses right now?
I think a lot of brands are still failing to deliver on the core promise of delivering a personalized shopping experience for consumers.
Yeah.
The websites are old, they're undifferentiated, they're based on monolithic, outdated technologies that only allow quarterly releases to production. They just can't innovate very fast. And we at commercetools invented MOC, which is microservices, APIs, cloud, and headless. And that form of architecture has just become the default industry standard. Yeah. So in our report, we had 41% of our customers say that the top reason to switch was to create better experiences. And I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. And I think from a competitive standpoint, Kelly, again, as the chief consumer officer in my company and my family, the challenge I think that organizations face on the customer experience standpoint is that brands are out there creating amazing shopping and customer experiences. And so we know what that looks and feels like. And if you're not there, if you're not delivering at that level, we're not patient as a whole. We're not going to sit around and wait for you to get on the ball and make it happen. We know that we can probably easily find, something similar somewhere else, and we don't have to jump through the hoops that, whatever is happening. And so I think that from a competitive standpoint, this really is something that kind of can't be ignored.
Right. And if you take the time to walk into a physical store and you have an actual physical shopping cart and you load it up with products, if checkout takes too long, that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but you're not going to just walk away. But online, at least, you need to be able to offer those very fast, differentiated, personalized experiences because the switching costs are very low. Yeah. Just get up and walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. Get distracted. So let's walk through some of the highlights from this newly published research report, The State of E-Commerce, Replatforming and Migration Trends for 2024. And this report explored the replatforming strategies of leading B2B manufacturing, retail, and consumer packaged goods. So one thing that immediately jumped out at me from this report is that there's clearly some dissatisfaction in the industry. Only 14% of respondents reported being satisfied with their current platforms. Okay, well, that presents a huge opportunity for commercetools now, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
I like that. So, and tech limitations impact organizations in many, many ways. So let's talk a little bit about those limitations. What are they, and how does this impact an organization's ability to both serve their customers with best-in-class experiences and also help them stay competitive?
Yeah, you're right. 92% of recent migrants said that they were recently satisfied or very satisfied with migration to a new platform. So clearly, after they adopt something new, they tend to be quite satisfied. It's the real problem is the status quo, and the status quo is slow. It's legacy. A lot of it's on premises. A lot of times they're being taken advantage of by their existing vendors, slow to release production. We've got a couple data points here. Limited scalability is 35% of the reason why folks are dissatisfied. Delayed implementations, low quality customer support, poor end customer experiences, lack of advanced features. There are just an awful lot of really legacy limiting platforms on the market right now. And unfortunately, folks are kind of stuck on some of them. So that's why we see such a big interest in replatforming right now.
Well, and I think, these pain points, limited scalability, okay, that's one. But when we're talking about, low quality customer support, poor end user experience, and then a lack of advanced features. And again, these are things that consumers are experiencing all the time. It's like, it doesn't take much to be dissatisfied enough to walk away. So I think that those pain points kind of speak for themselves there.
Another thing, unfortunately true.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I touched on here a little bit ago, but this is a demanding customer segment. Okay. And one thing that is 100% certain is that customers are not sitting around patiently waiting for you to get your act together when it comes to serving up those best in class experiences. We know what they look like and we want them. And, but that really also plays a huge role in, those tech limitations impact an organization's ability to enhance customer experiences, but it also really impacts their ability to stay competitive. And I think that those are some key things that, really shined through in the report.
Yeah, 100%. So looking at those who have made a migration, 90% experienced increase in sales and revenue. And 30% of those said that their sales increased by 30% or more. So really substantial gains to be had by modernizing. And, another challenge I see a lot of brands face is they still haven't mastered the basics. How often have you been asked to log in again when you've already just logged in? How often are you not getting customer service? I'm not going to name the brand, but I was passing through Minneapolis airport. I needed a luggage, and they had a text to chat with our store associates feature. And I had this really nice message that I sent while in flight, and I'm passing through and I've got cash in hand I want to buy, and nobody ever responded, ever. They just never responded to me. And it's unfortunate, but that is, unfortunately the norm here sometimes.
Well, and I will say, and I have a feeling we're somewhat similar on this front, when you're immersed in the technology ecosystem, and that there's a better way, and that this is not, you're not asking a lot, and it's just, I think that makes it even more frustrating. The more knowledgeable you are, the higher their expectations are. And so it's really interesting. One of the things that I noticed in the report, this ability to compete, that was the number one metric identified by people who have both recently migrated and then, people who are potentially thinking about that. And this is how they assess the value of their investment. 67% of recent migrators cited that metric as important. 58% of potential migrators said it was important. So, this is not, in my opinion, this is not we should get around to this someday. This is like listen to what your customers are saying, listen to what the industry is saying. And, as you pointed out, 90% of migrators seeing significant revenue and sales growth. Okay, sign me up.
Right. Well, and the challenge is demographics are changing, and younger folks in their 20s, especially for the B2Bs out there, they don't want to talk to people. They want to speak. They want to work with a functioning website or app or other e-commerce experience, and they want to get what they want, and they want to experience the brand sometimes, but they want to be able to pick their own journey. And e-commerce is awfully stagnant out there. A lot of the flows are very traditional. And thankfully, we have some fantastic customers who are really innovating and building some differentiated experiences. But, a lot of e-commerce just looks the same from brand and retailer, across the board. So we're seeing composable commerce make a pretty big change there already.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about this extensively in this short conversation, but the one data point that triggered e-commerce migrations is the need to create better, more personalized customer experiences. That
Correct.
said, there are challenges when it comes to switching platforms. It's not just let's just flip a switch. Talk with me a little bit, if you would, about those challenges and how customers can address them.
Yeah, and the era of big replatforms is thankfully over. When I was getting started, a lot of these were first generation, but very quickly we had second generation platforms. And what you do is you build up an entire parallel separate stack, and then you would, on a Sunday night usually, I'll stay in the office until midnight or 2 a.m. and then flip the switch and hope that it all worked.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was the default back then. And now with composable, which we helped invent at commercetools, you can incrementally adopt these platforms over the course of weeks, if not months, a handful of months. And one of our customers, Ulta Beauty, launched buy online, pick up in store in just 7 days. And that's a good example of how it doesn't have to be a big release. It doesn't have to be I hope this works or I'm going to get fired type of moment, right? And you can incrementally tackle your leading business problems.
Yeah. Well, and I think about it a little bit as, a 20 plus career as a strategist. I think about it a little bit as, a Lego, building something with a bunch of Legos, and in your composable commerce tech stack, if you will, is something. It's as easy as, let me slide this functionality in here. And I think this is what's going to happen, and this is how it's going to work. Oh my gosh, it's great. Oh, this is perfect. Or, oop, not quite what I wanted here. Let me tweak that. Let me slide this red block. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what composable commerce is. You have the ability to put the pieces of the puzzle together, pieces of the Lego creation that you're building, right? And so I think that's really what it's all about, in the days of those crossed fingers and holding your breath and worrying about losing your job, and and not that making changes doesn't still have its own moments of anxiety, but I think the ability to be agile and flexible and move quickly and pivot even more quickly, I think all of those are parts of the value proposition here of composable that are pretty hard to ignore. But now I want to shift to the holiday season and explore some of the findings from your holiday report. This report is called Unwrapping Success, Key Investments Driving Holiday Sales, and really kind of taking a look at what the business outlook there is. Okay, why is there an urgency in investing in tech upgrades that are centered on creating better customer experiences, especially as we approach this holiday season, or really any holiday season? Why is there such a sense of urgency?
I think a lot of it is just creating those personalized brand experiences. In our report, we found 41% of brands and retailers were upgrading e-commerce explicitly for that reason. Again, a lot of e-commerce is undifferentiated, and in an era of the big, Amazons and Walmarts of the world, and Shein and Temu, you've got to keep pace with them and even get out in front of them. And I think you can do that with composable commerce. And we've got a lot of great customer examples of folks who've done that.
Speaking of Shein and Temu, I just literally moments before we hopped on to record, I was reading an article about the future might not look so rosy for them with maybe some new regulations coming down the pike. So that'll be interesting to watch. Okay, I noted from the report that there are 3 main areas where business leaders are investing to help mitigate risks and drive holiday sales in 2024. These are modern e-commerce platforms and composable commerce, social commerce, and AI. Let's take them one at a time. Modern e-commerce platforms and composable commerce. I mean, this is kind of what we've already been talking about, but how can embracing this help meet customer demands, drive sales, and business growth, especially during the holiday season?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these legacy platforms have downtime, which is just completely unacceptable. And the ability of a commerce platform to help an organization compete was the #1 metric for both recent and potential migrators in our study. So 67% cited that as the reason why. that just the bar for competition has gone up, and composable commerce puts folks ahead of the competition, not behind.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we talked a little bit about social commerce. In your report, 77% of companies share they're looking to boost social media channel usage in 2024, which comes as zero surprise to me. Facebook Shop, Marketplace, 71% of businesses plan to use this for holiday sales. TikTok, 55% of companies investing there for holiday campaigns. We've got Instagram Reels, so many other things. So why is driving social commerce capabilities so critical? I have a feeling it all has to do with where consumers are.
That's exactly it. That's where the eyeballs are. Folks don't want to download an app. There's still friction in downloading standalone shopping apps. You have to download and install and log in, and a lot of times people don't want that. They're instead following a fitness influencer, for example, who might post something for sale through Instagram or through TikTok Shop, right? And they want the ability to consume their social media, scroll their feed, and oh, by the way, here's a product that might go along with what I was just looking at. So it's much more in line with where the eyeballs are these days.
Yeah, absolutely. From a personal standpoint, I am so over brands asking me to download their app. And I don't care. I don't care if you're offering me a discount. I don't care what the incentive is, because I want to shop where I want to shop. I don't want to download yet another app. I don't want, I just want the process to be easy. And I'm not going to live inside your app. I'm not going to buy more because I've downloaded your app. I'm not going to turn on notifications because I've downloaded your app. So I think the focus on social channels makes a lot of sense. This is not in any way new. I mean, we've been shopping and buying and marketing and social channels for many years now, but I think that continues to grow, and it continues to be such an important channel. I noticed from your report that payment options are also super important. I saw from your report that 7 in 10 retailers said they're investing in diversified payment channels. 90% of the retailers participating in the survey said that composable commerce is going to enhance their customer experiences this holiday season. And a really impressive 88% said that they see composable as the key to their ability to be flexible, allowing them to launch more capabilities faster, easier, and of course, then the holy grail of delivering on, better customer experiences. Anything else pop out at you from the research on social that you want to mention?
Yeah, there was a Forrester study done a few years ago, and they did a survey of people's time use on their mobile devices. And they found that they spent like 98% of their time in a couple apps. And it was, as you would expect, it was email, it was text messaging, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's just a handful of those apps. And now it's all TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah.
But they just don't switch back and forth between apps. There's such a long tail out there, hard to find them on the screen. It's got to be a really compelling brand offer value proposition to get someone to download and use an app. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but the bar is pretty high these days. Yeah. And I think a lot of these brands just check the box of building an app when they don't necessarily, it's not necessarily why customers are browsing them. They're browsing them on desktop or mobile web or on social. Yeah. The head could be really anything at this point.
Yeah. And I think that, today's consumers are, sort of a little ADD in way, you know what I'm saying? We're bouncing around. I'm on Facebook. Oh, I'm on Instagram. Oh, I'm over here on TikTok. Oh, my 18-year-old daughter is sending me a text message with a link to something that she saw on TikTok that she wants me to buy for, we are popping all around. And so I feel like, the retailers who really understand that consumer behavior, understand how important it is to not only show up in those spaces, but to be able to create experiences that make it so easy for me to give you my money. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, it's like all those hoops, sometimes the things that you have to do, entering tons of information and everything else, and sometimes you're doing it on a mobile device. That's a pain in the neck. When I can just push a button, I'm so much happier. And I think that what we're seeing is retailers really embrace that in composable and think about how many things can we eliminate as part of this path to purchase, right?
Right. And you have to replicate when you're in a store and you're checking out and there's some gum sitting there and candy, right? Those impulse purchases.
Yeah.
That's what we really need to replicate as an industry. And
Yeah.
I think in our survey, we found that 64% of brands and retailers were looking to do more short form social media. And again, it's really capturing that impulse buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I need that. I say that 10 times a day, probably. All right. The last one is artificial intelligence. So we've talked about this pretty much ad nauseum here, but personalized experience, they are not a trend. They are an expectation. Your survey showed that 62% of businesses are already leveraging AI, another 32% are planning to implement it. But it's not just about using AI. It's about using the right kind of AI to drive measurable results. Okay, Kelly, what is the right kind of AI?
That's a loaded question. I think the best form of AI is AI that serves a business need. I think there's a lot of blind pressure out there to add AI features in for the sake of adding AI features. And we're regularly asked by existing customers and prospects, what AI features do you have? And I always gently push back on that and say, that's not the right question to be asking. The right question to be asking instead is, what business value are you delivering? And oh, by the way, it might happen to use AI behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, personalization is a fantastic example. Personalization is now much better due to AI. You can build websites, mobile apps, experiences, code faster, right? That's a really good example of where, the AI really becomes beneficial. But also good use cases are fraud detection, personalized advertising and marketing, forecasting, demand prediction.
Yeah.
Customer support is going to be really big.
Oh,
and finally,
absolutely.
quality assurance.
And to me, I think that, when it comes to addressing customer issues, problems with an order, or anything else, nobody really wants to go to the trouble. First of all, nobody wants to have something not be perfect when they order
Right.
something and it's received. Okay. But it happens. But sometimes the process of, going to the website, finding the order number, reporting a problem, and then getting that email that says, we'll be back to you in 24 to 48 hours. We are passionate about customer service.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, because then what happens is that I go on with my life. I forget this. I get annoyed. You know what I'm saying? And 2 days later, I finally get there is a better way. And to me, when AI can power some of those customer service efforts, I think that's going to be a huge thing and something that's very much needed, because in many instances, we're still stuck in the dark ages there.
Yeah, 100% we are. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I also noticed that site performance and customization was a key success factor that the respondents in your survey mentioned. 94% of survey respondents reported that their migration significantly improved their site performance, and 88% reported that moving to a new platform offered more customization. So I think that's kind of a ringing endorsement that things are working the way they're supposed to be working, right?
100%. Modern tech is just that. It's very modern, and we literally invented this category. So invest in us.
Yeah, you ought to be good at it. Well, Kelly, we've unpacked a lot of information, both from the results of your current state of e-commerce study, as well as from the key investments driving holiday sales. As we wrap the show, I'm going to ask you for one piece of advice that you'd leave our audience with as they're thinking about their current e-commerce platforms and their strategies, and what they can do to help them get to measurable results more quickly.
I think the number one piece of advice is to work incrementally and deliver that business value using composable commerce, solve real business problems, whether or not you happen to use AI behind the scenes, demonstrate value to your business stakeholders, to your CEOs, and just keep chipping away at it, because ultimately you'll get through that backlog and, at least on par, and, hopefully should be able to get ahead of competition with composable, just as our many customers have done.
Yeah. When I've thought about this, I feel like time is short and opportunities are here. Opportunities abound, and making that transition to composable commerce and replatforming sooner rather than later. There's the thing about a research study and talking with customers on this front that I always love is that, people aren't saying, my results were kind of so-so. What people who are doing this, who've made this transition, what they're saying is, oh my goodness, it's amazing.
We have to do this. Right.
We have to do
this. This becomes a necessity.
I wish we hadn't waited so long, but let's forget about that. And just, they're really excited. And at Elevate, I felt that excitement in the air when I was talking with your customers. And I talked with
There is a better way.
There is a better way, and significant business benefits and increased revenue, growth, and the ability to serve up better customer experiences. This is a big, big win. So I so appreciate you, Kelly Goetsch, Chief Strategy Officer for commercetools. Thanks so much for joining me today and walking me through these timely industry reports. Your insights have been incredibly valuable, and I so appreciate the time you've spent with me and with our audience. So thank you.
Nice to talk to you again.
To our viewers and listening audience, this is Shelly Kramer from Kramer & Company Research. Thank you so much for joining us today for our coverage of enterprise and emerging tech news. And if you've not yet hit that subscribe button, we'd love for you to do so. And we'll see you back here next time.